Like, all right, Tom, like, we want you in the role, but you can't do the voice. And he's like, no, listen, I'm doing the voice.
Can I do Bane again?
You have to build the movie around the character having this voice.
We'll have to make him a time traveler, I guess. Yeah, it's fine.
It's like, just make it work. Make it happen.
Every movie's sci-fi if you push hard enough.
We don't sound like him at all at this point.
No, you sounded
keep
a
going,
little bit
though.
like John Mulaney, Spider-Ham.
John Mulaney kind of does the transatlantic thing, but like
He does.
Not sounding tough though. He's like the most.
No,
He's the most sincere transatlantic accent I've heard in a long time.
he's from Boston. Isn't he?
It's really weird. His whole recent stint on all of his addiction and stuff has been so weird because he's such a like. I mean, he's got such a clean cut image, and then him just talking about, yeah, I was walking around with pockets full of cocaine and downers and uppers and both. Lord.
Oh, he was born in Chicago. Oh, Chicago. That's why.
Chicago.
There we go. Cause Chicago.
Da Parish.
No, we don't talk about them here.
Oh, excuse me. Is there a rivalry with the Packers? Is that,
Oh yeah, it's like
okay.
the oldest NFL rivalry. It's
Well,
between those two.
excuse me. I knew enough to know there was something there.
Oh yeah,
I
it's
could
pure.
tell by maybe your tone.
It's pure hatred. Pure hatred
I'm
between
not 100%.
the franchises.
I'm not 100% sure what sport you're talking about.
Yeah.
Foosball.
Oh. Hey, TJ. Well, it's 7:29.
Oh my god.
We're set.
Or 829, if you're where I am.
Oh, that's true.
Well, nobody's where you are, Jay. So just get over it.
There's some people here.
Nope. You now live in.
There's two.
You've been exiled to that land. You stay there.
That land.
Jay took
That
The Last
holler.
of Us literally.
Yeah,
Holler.
just got out here.
All right. Well, you want to dive in? You guys ready? You want to just jump right?
We got to
Okay.
do this
Hit
Audacity
record
live here.
on Zencaster. Gonna fix the video a little bit if it screws up, which it will.
I have just like lines from songs stuck in my head that are song lines that are trending audio on Instagram and stuff, but like not anymore.
Oh
Sometimes you have to be a little bit naughty. Oh my god! Like, why are you in my head? I don't know.
pretty good.
The hotel that I stayed at for
I
this
wasn't
work
exposed to
thing
my
that.
brain right now.
is this old building, and they just played like old music,
This
but like,
old building.
but it got like annoying. Like it was like, we get it, like at some point, and it's just. It was just driving me nuts like all week.
Yeah.
And they kept playing that song, like, you know, the song that's like, anything you can do, I can do better, or whatever. And the girl answers it, like, but they play it's over
Why did
and
they get you
over. And I was just like, I'm going to lose
Why?
my mind.
Where-
Because it's like we're an old hotel. We're, like, yeah.
Oh, like a 40s guy.
yeah, it's like
John
that.
Mulaney.
The most haunted building in West Virginia too. I didn't see any ghosts, but that's the
That's
rumor. So it
disappointing.
was very haunted.
Mm.
But no ghosts here.
So funny.
I ain't scared of no.
I kept asking people that the hotel guests or the hotel people they were all kind of mean, but like as soon as I got there, I was like leaning over, I was like, "Is this place haunted?"
Jay,
they were
I will
like,
say, this sounds
they were
like
like,
a
"Oh
really
my
bad
god!" Like,
experience.
I was asking the bar, I was like, "Is this place haunted?" And he was
Yeah.
like, didn't want to talk about it. I was like, "Man, you guys are no fun. I don't talk about the ghosts. Like, tell me if you've ever seen a ghost. Like, you work in a haunted hotel. Like, give me a break."
Yeah.
I worked in a bed and breakfast for a couple of years that was built in 1889, and I'd get those questions all the time too. And you do have to be careful because some people want you to answer yes. Some people don't want you to even touch it. So I just say I've never experienced anything myself, but I have heard a number of stories.
That's awesome. That's so funny. Okay, you guys recording?
I just every time I could
no.
bring it up, I brought it up. Like I would talk to like people would be like I'd be talking to people from another county, and they'd be like, "I didn't sleep very good last night." I'd be like, "Well, this place is haunted, right?" Like that's probably why.
God, Jay, you're a menace.
It was like any chance I got to bring it up, I was gonna bring it up.
That's great.
I could see you like crawling through people's rooms, like grabbing their foot and crawling out.
He really does commit to the bit.
I mean,
That's what he's known for. All right. You guys ready?
Yep.
You all
Yeah.
recording all across the board?
yeah.
All right, I'll get this party started.
Yes.
Get this party started.
All right. Jon Hamm is ready to join the MCU or the DCU. A new trailer for The Penguin dropped. The Blade movie remains in hell. Plus, some box office talk. All that and more on this week's Multiverse News. Bleep, bleep. All right.
Matthew McConaughey went through my head.
Yeah.
I know it's stupid, but this is not a blaming thing. This is me being stupid, but it's not in the script. The whole welcome to Multiverse News. So I
Well,
almost
It
just
wasn't from last week, so I was like, "Are we not doing that
Oh,
anymore?"
oh
that's on me. I don't know why that
totally
wasn't
fine.
included.
I was like, "I don't know."
Not a big deal. It's just that I almost started reading the Jon Hamm one, just like out of like, okay, I'm next on the script without introing the show in a Q&A with Hollywood Reporter. I'm like, what?
We are
Everybody's
clearly
like,
diving
"Seriously?"
in.
Did I hit the skip button or something?
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
We're all here. We've been here.
It's
Where
just
have we been?
No intro at all, no music, just start on the first story. Okay, here we go. Okay. Welcome to Multiverse News, your source for information about all your favorite fictional universes. My name's Matthew Carroll, and with me on the panel today, we have our wonderful, illustrious, Fab Four over here. We got J. Scotty St. Clair. What's happening, J. Scotty?
What up? Can I be the George Harrison of the group?
Yes, you may. Yes, you may.
Yeah.
Make that
And-
call.
Nobody ever wants to be the George Harrison. I love it.
What?
I'm smelling a
dare you.
Spotify poll.
Yeah, I think you might be. All right, and who can you smell what he's cooking? Jay Sisson.
I mean, I think I'm Paul McCartney probably, right? I mean, I
I
don't
can
know.
see that. I can see
Yeah. I don't know.
Okay.
Haley
I mean, if you're
seems
gonna
mad.
say you're Paul McCartney, then you probably are Paul McCartney.
that's touche. Yeah, no, I'm doing good. I'm finally back on Multiverse News after a week off, and glad to be back.
Yeah.
Seems like forever.
Yeah, man. It always seems like long when this one. For some reason, this show feels like longer for me than other shows when I miss them. And Haley Hobbs, what is going on?
I don't want to really be another one of those other Beatles
That
necessarily.
means you're Ringo. That means you're Ringo. that you said that.
Okay, you know what? I'm gladly Ringo.
Oh man, I can't. I feel like I can't claim the John Lennon.
Yeah, you're
role
John.
now.
I mean, that's the only one left.
Yeah, all right. Just out of pure. And then I have no similarities to him.
It's musical chairs.
It's,
You know,
it's just musical
yeah.
chairs. I'm surprised he was last picked though. This is a strange.
There's a lot of baggage with that role.
Yoko.
You know?
Yeah, yes, that's true. It's just a strange Beatles kickball game where he got picked last. I don't know. I don't like it. All right, well, let's dive into the news for this week. In a Q&A with The Hollywood Reporter, Fargo and Mad Men star Jon Hamm proclaimed himself a comic book nerd and mentioned he is still in talks with both heads of Marvel and DC for roles, as well as confirmed that he passed on the Green Lantern, saying it was one he definitely didn't want to do. Hamm even indicated he has a role selected at Marvel if the studio does the storyline, and they say they will. Time for that pie in the sky favorite pastime of everyone's. Who does Jon Hamm want to play in the Nerdverse?
I would love for him to tell us because it's kind of been wildly speculated for a long time at this point, and the front runner I think for Jon Hamm is fan casting is Mr. Sinister for the Sinister Six. That's
Ooh.
complicated with the Sony of it all, so who would he play beyond that? Listen, I'm not good at fan casting, so I'm not going to pretend I'm going to try to, but I did like what he had to say that if he said they weren't asking me to be Iron Man when, Mad Men started in 2007, Iron Man was 2008, I wonder if he's kind of been in this realm with Marvel and or DC for that long, and if so, he clearly really wants to be part of like these franchises, which I think is great. I think we want him in one or both of them. When he says he passed on Green Lantern, I'm going to assume that's the Ryan Reynolds one.
Yes.
We
Yeah, it
haven't
is that
had
one.
otherwise, even though we have a little news bit about James Gunn's Green Lantern later. But yeah, I don't know. I just thought it was a really fascinating article and that somebody of his talent and his you know, he's in this different stratosphere these days of kind of what he's doing and what he gets to do and what he's approached to do in Hollywood, that he is still kind of, yes, I want to be in Marvel, I want to be in DC, when we've heard so much of the opposite from Hollywood, and from even some actors who are like, no, I wouldn't do that anymore. So yay for Jon, like, standing our franchises.
Mm-hmm.
I love Jon Hamm. I was really big into Mad Men when it was on, and I just love that show. It's like got a special place for me, and I think he's just a fantastically talented person. But I do think he like really wants a Marvel role. For like him to say this in the article, it does come off as like, please, like to put it out there and get the conversation, because you wouldn't say this in an interview unless you were like really pushing for it, right? Like, so I would imagine that he probably had this meeting a while back. Like he probably had this meeting years ago, and he's really trying to kind of make that move. He's really trying to like bring that back up again and bring that back out into the conversation and get people talking about Jon Hamm in the MCU or whatever, and see if he can kind of get the ball rolling. It's typically why you'll see people drop things like this in these types of interviews. But I mean, I just think he's great in everything. I do imagine though that this pitch meeting was probably kind of like that scene in Mad Men where he like pitches the Life cereal when he's drunk or whatever, and it's kind of become the meme, like with the sign behind him, and it's like you put a wild idea on it or whatever. You know, he was just like very like, he came loaded. I mean, he had the comic idea. He was like, I want to do this. I want this particular role. Like, can we do it? And they're like, well, we're going to do it. He's like, can I be it? And they're like, we'll call you, you know. Well, they probably haven't called him. So that's why this interview happened. But yeah, just overall, like zooming out on it, just a really good interview with one of, you know, in my mind, one of the more interesting people in Hollywood.
Yeah. What interests me most about this is his recent role on Fargo. He is, to me, I imagine if you're right, and this meeting was many, many years ago, and I bet he was meeting for heroes, because I think there was a while where he like really seemed like the next big leading man, but I don't think he's really been able to break into movies as a leading role. Like he's made a few.
Does he want to?
What's that?
Yeah.
Does he want to is the question.
I think that he did at a time. I just like looking at his IMDb and stuff. There were a number of just like little or like smaller roles, like movies that just didn't explode that he did shortly after Mad Men. But lately he's been more of a TV guy, doing Fargo, which was amazing. And I just watched The Morning Show. His season on The Morning Show has been really interesting. I haven't finished it yet, but his character definitely seems to have like some darker tones there too. And I feel like he's now settling into the fact that maybe he would be a better villain. And I wonder if like that's a better fit for him. And now that he's in that sort of era of his career, if he'd be willing to do something like Sinister or Doom or like just something different, something dark for him. And I think he could play it great, because he does a great job of being sinister as hell, but still being charismatic while doing it, which is what you need from a really powerful villain that's going to, you know, eat up a bunch of screen time. You want them to be entertaining while they're being menacing, you know? And I think that all of our best villains are that way. And so, but he can be that way without sort of compromise. Like you've got a Loki, for instance, who's sort of like, he's a villain, he's charismatic, but there's sort of this like, oh, well, maybe he'll turn. His character on Fargo is just completely terrible, but the whole time I enjoyed watching him. You know what I mean? And I think he has that. Would be great for that. I think he'd be great. I want him in a villain role. Is I guess what I'm saying.
Yeah. I'm kind of kicking myself because I did not get the opportunity to read this article Variety did with Jon Hamm, but I definitely want to. It seems fascinating. I think he's a fascinating performer, and I agree with everything that's been brought up. I think he's immensely talented. I think he's got a lot of range, and you can see that from the roles he's chosen. You know, everything from the dramatic chops we see showcased in Mad Men to, you know, something that kind of pops up for me is Tag. Like he did Tag with Jeremy Renner and a bunch of other like comedy guys. So he's clearly, you know, willing to not be a leading man. And that's why I kind of challenged you on that a little bit, Matt, because I did not get to read the whole article, but one thing, a little blurb that stuck out to me is I think there was a quote from him that kind of asserted as much, like he's kind of accepted that he's not going to be this leading man, and maybe he's not all that interested in it, which actually excites me because to your point, Matt, you look at these roles like Fargo, where he doesn't have to be like the main character that you root for. He can really tap into something kind of primal and bring a unlikability and detestability to to some characters with some real pathos. The other part that I look at, I was kind of glad to get the clarification that we found out that he was up for the 2011 Green Lantern, because I just assumed that it was something after that, and it was the stank of the Ryan Reynolds Green Lantern. It's like, of course, who would want to take that? But then learning that he was up for that original role, it's just kind of blows my mind a little bit that, like, how different could that Green Lantern film have looked had they gone with Jon Hamm instead of Ryan Reynolds. And I'm not going to lay all the blame at Ryan Reynolds' feet here, but it also makes me a little sad because I think it broadcasts like a lack of appreciation or just how much stank that 2011 film did create for Green Lantern, because Green Lantern is a fascinating, fantastic character. His power is essentially imagination. So whatever you can, come up with, like, that is your superpower. So I don't, maybe Jon Hamm's not the right guy for that.
Unless it's yellow.
Oh, sure. Yeah. There's a whole spectrum of the Lantern Corps. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Which, that does excite me for the show that we have coming up around the corner. Have we got any casting for that? I don't think so.
No, we'll talk about its confirmation here in a little bit, and they've talked about the characters that they're going to explore, but they've not casted anyone yet, as far as I know.
Okay. So all that being said, yes, I am more interested in Jon Hamm, potentially being a villain or a supporting role, and yeah, this whole campaign for Mr. Sinister, I suspect that is the role that he's alluding to when he says he's talked to Marvel and Marvel wants to do it. They plan to do it, and whether or not they want him to do it remains to be seen. But yeah, we'll see how this all shakes out.
I think they want him to, because I think he said, "This is my role" to them, which I think is cool, because in the article it does talk about kind of the spiral he took when Mad Men ended and why he does choose the things in his career now that he chooses, just because they're not the most A-list things, and he does want to work with directors that are A-list, but he doesn't mind that he's kind of in this world where he gets to call his shots a little bit, I think. And I would be okay with him doing that at Marvel, especially if he's a self-proclaimed comic book nerd. He can, bring some Christopher Lee into the MCU the way he brought to the Tolkien universe. I don't know.
I like it.
Yeah. Dig it. All right. Up next, the second trailer for The Penguin, the Colin Farrell-led spin-off series of Matt Reeves' Batman, The Batman, was released. Let me say that again. Oh, my nose started itching and it distracted me. Yeah. Nose itchy. Sorry. Whew. I'm dealing with allergies from being at the lake still. Okay. All right. Up next, the second trailer for The Penguin, the Colin Farrell-led series. Sorry. All right. Up next, the second trailer for The Penguin, the Colin Farrell-led spin-off series of Matt Reeves' The Batman was released. It highlights more characters who will appear and indicates that the Falcons, Gotham's first family of crime, will be the center of the story. The show also features Salvatore Maroni, played by Clancy Brown, and is led by Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. showrunner Lauren LaFranc. Do we think we know what Oz is capable of?
I am really fascinated by what the level of interest is going to be in this show, because this trailer premiered and it didn't get a lot of conversation started on social media. Like it wasn't trending. There wasn't a whole lot of discussion going on, which usually isn't a great sign. With that being said, though, like, I thought the trailer in and of itself was really good. Like I was really in, and I think, like, if you are watching it, it's in this weird place where you're like, okay, I know it's a Batman thing, but I'm watching something without Batman. And that's kind of like that's a conversation we have a lot about with Sony and the Sonyverse, missing Spider-Man. It's a conversation that really plagued that show Gotham that was on for a long time, about the rise of all these villains in Gotham, but there was no Batman. It was like a prequel to Batman and all of that. And the Elseworlds type projects sometimes can have that conversation, right? Like Joker had that conversation and it was fine, but still it's that idea of, like, you've got these projects that are being created about a character in a character's universe without the character, right? You're focusing on something else, and will that succeed? And the answer is not always yes. With that being said, though, again, like, you've got DC in this really odd place. I don't know if I think it's good or bad yet. I think it's just odd where they've got DC Studios, they've got the DCU that they're really creating, and then they've got Elseworlds, and so you've got the Penguin series coming. Joker 2 will drop in the middle of the Penguin series airing. So they're both Elseworld projects about Batman without Batman in two separate universes. And I just don't know like how people will react to that, right? Like, will that be confusing for the general public? You know what I mean? Like when they see that, or will it just be a show that generates a lot of conversation and people watch it? You know, I mean, I think the Batman had a great box office, despite being years ago that it came out. It still had a great box office. And I think there is still a level of interest in that universe. But all that aside, I really loved this trailer. I thought it showcased a lot of like what this show's trying to be. It seems like it's very like Sopranos-esque. It seems like there's I kept seeing people in it too that I had forgotten had been cast in it. And I was like, oh man, there's that guy, there's that guy, there's that guy. Like Michael Zegan, who played Joel in The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. I totally forgot he was in this show. And he popped up. And then like Kristen Milioti, she like plays like the Falcone daughter. She's great. Like in anything she's ever been in, I've seen her in. She's awesome. And so she's in it and she's like the main villain. And it's just like, I just kept seeing these people and I was like, that guy's in it. That guy's in it. Like, and to me, like I got really interested in this. I think this is going to be a great show. I'm excited for it. I think like this trailer really showed off. I don't want to see more. Like, I think this trailer really showed off what I needed to know. And I hope everybody else will agree. Like, I think it has the power to do it. It's just, again, like I'm just interested in watching how much, what is going to be the level of interest in this thing.
Mm-hmm. It's tricky. It really is, because like, I agree with you. I think this looks great. And in any other time, I think this would be like a really huge deal. I feel like the entirety of the Nerdverse was kind of spoiled by the sort of tightness and the rapidity of the releases of Marvel for so long, and now we're all left in this place where like no one's living up to that sort of release schedule, even Marvel. And it's like the Batman was great. If this had followed up shortly after, it would have been like, oh man, I'm still in that world, I'm ready to go. We were like on live stream, like decoding stuff from trailers and stuff. It was a great time when the Batman was coming out. It was a good movie. I was in that world, and now since then I feel like I've been in a few other DC worlds, and it's just sort of waters down the brand. I'm not still living there, you know. And it does feel like there's just too long between these properties, which is ridiculous because it's like 2 years or something. It's not that long, but I'm just spoiled, and it makes it hard. I'm spoiled, and exactly what you're saying, Jay. These properties sort of stacked on top of each other. But overall, I think the idea of doing a like really dramatic, high caliber villain story, long form in a TV series, in one of these worlds, in one of these fandom worlds, sounds really cool. Like I can't, we've seen like you mentioned The Sopranos, or, you know, Breaking Bad, the sort of anti-hero, anti-villain, whatever, like sort of breakdown. But we haven't really seen that as just taking an actual villain that we've known as a silly guy with penguin flippers and a little cigarette, and like take him and like make him real and actually take it seriously, you know. I'm really excited for it.
I don't know that I have too much more to add. I'll be honest, this is one of those projects that I kind of forget that it's in the works until we get reminded about it with like trailers like this or casting announcements or what have you. So I've kind of found myself like lumping this project with I think we were also supposed to get like a Gotham PD prequel series as well. I don't know what's happening with that. It seems like that's dead in the water there. But I also kind of lumped it in with the Dune Sisterhood, prequel series that's associated with Dune, obviously there. So it's interesting to see that of the three, the two that have actually made it are kind of releasing their marketing and everything all around the same kind of at the same time rather. I'm relatively excited for it. I think back on that Batman, and it was a great movie. I really liked Robert Pattinson as Batman, but I hate to say it, but the thing that kind of sticks with me is that it was just too long. Like I have no desire to go back and rewatch that movie because it just felt like it was 40 minutes too long. So I do think that Colin Farrell was a standout. I am excited to be back in this world, but I guess my hope is that, you know, maybe we'll get some other characters pop up. Maybe like Jeffrey Wright's Commissioner Gordon will pop up in there, and maybe even though it's acting as a prequel here, maybe it can do some things to continue to set up the world and you know, whet our appetites for the Batman 2, which, you know, apparently Matt Reeves is still working on the script. So
I'm really looking forward to the Penguin, actually. I think that what you said, Scotty, Colin Farrell's really strong performance in the Batman is going to draw people to this show, because he was one of the talking points after you saw it. Could you believe that was Colin Farrell? It didn't look anything like him. It didn't sound anything like him. Like, his performance was, you know, Oscar worthy, because he's an Oscar winner. Go figure. And I don't know enough about like DC Comics lore, but I know the Falcons are a big part of the underworld, and I think it's really fun to explore that. All the other Batman villains in the past, it feels like we've gotten, have been the really well-known ones, and the masked villains, and the ones that, you know, can be a little campy and over the top. Or, I mean, even Tom Hardy's Bane, you know, it's a little over the top, and and this is going to be very street level, which we talk a lot about that stuff in Marvel. Like, we love the street level stuff. I think that that's what the Batman felt like intentionally, and I think that's what the show will be. And I think it will draw people in and kind of make them go back to the Batman. Oh yeah, I remember seeing this in the theaters once, you know, because it was 3 hours long, and watching it at home. And I think too, a good connective tissue with it is it looks like it's actually starting right after the movie ends, kind of. So it's not. It's not
cool.
a prequel.
Yeah, it's got like that flood scene. Like, that was the last scene of the Batman.
It's a follow-up, which I think we've been getting a lot of prequels. You're not wrong about that. So maybe it's nice to get something that happens right after a storyline or a plot we just saw. I don't know. It definitely got my gears turning. I'm excited about it.
Let me hop up and do something real quick before we start that third one. Is that, if that's cool?
Yeah.
No.
Whatever, Ringo.
I like to do that to
Don't
people.
you move.
All right, I'll be right back.
Whatever, Ringo.
Hey, I'll proudly be Ringo. He's just back there hitting the drums, having a good time.
What's up, Andre? West Coast represent. There you go, Jay Scotty, one of your West Coast brethren.
West Coast.
Okay, West Coast.
Hey, Jess.
Jessica.
Top
As
of
if
the
I ever
morning,
talked
yo.
to her.
You say Jessica has the same way the Purple Man does.
Oh my God, I did. I'm sorry, Jessica.
I thought that was intentional.
No.
I say we all do that just to creep Jessica out a lot. Just from now on. Jessica. Jessica.
Watch our viewer count just.
It drops to 5 immediately from 6.
Sometimes I randomly think about that scene where they're shoving that arm down the garbage disposal or something. And I'm just like, man, that show was not for me. But I watched it.
Yeah, Jess says, sure, ask Sony how creating how it's going to create a bunch of Spider-Man movies about Spider-Man. I think it is a little different with this because Batman does exist in the universe. There's even a possibility he could show up or at least be in the thing in the background. Like, he's existing. It's his like partially
like they have
result.
Act like it doesn't exist.
Yeah, exactly. Like
Sony kind of has to do.
The Penguin can like become more the Penguin as a result of what Batman did.
Yeah.
Just like any other good connected universe can be, instead of like, let's never mention Peter's name even though he's getting birthed in the car.
Not going to mention the Wayne family, for instance. Like,
exactly.
Know, like, that'll be a present. I don't know. I just think it has a lot of potential. It makes me think of. It seems very Game of Thronesy in a way. I don't know. It's like it looks very like.
There's a power vacuum. Yeah, it seems.
Yeah, and you mentioned it, Haley, but I really like the stuff of the Falcone family and the Maroni family, and there's a lot of stories in Batman lore that just deal with that. You know, just deal with the crime families and them going at it. It just at some point the more flamboyant villains kind of take over, and the Penguin is one of those, and it's sort of I'm guessing that's this story. The sort of like before Batman existed, he's like, I'm gonna stop all this organized crime, and they're like, okay, what about chaotic, weird, like
Yeah.
costumed crime instead.
But Colin Farrell's Penguin is not that at the same time. Like,
Right,
he's just a
right.
gangster. I love to
Yeah.
see Clancy Brown. Anytime I
All
see
right.
him, I'm
Oh,
like,
sorry
about that. Me
Clancy
too.
Brown.
Me too. Sorry we did that, Jess. Sorry we did that.
Is Maroney the
Jessica.
one that Bruce's father saves? In comics? People in the chat. TJ.
Is
Yeah, I don't
who
know.
Am
the
I right
one
or
that
am I wrong?
his father saves? What are you talking about? Is who?
Salvatore Maroney. I think that
I don't know.
Thomas Wayne saves him at one point.
I don't know. There's so many different versions, but like
I know that
that's something like that.
Julia
happened in
Roberts'
the-
brother played him in the Dark Knight
Julia
trilogy.
Roberts' brother. Pray tell,
Whatever
who
it is.
is that?
That's
He's an actor.
interesting.
I don't know his first name, but he's something Roberts.
Julia Roberts' brother.
Yep, exactly.
They just knew, so they just like saved him the trouble. You know?
Oh my god, you guys know what I learned this week? Sorry. Did you know that Nick Cage is a Coppola?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
I did not know.
So is well, he's not a Coppola, but he's part of the same family. Jason Schwartzman.
Yeah.
They're
Sounds
cousins.
exciting to me for some reason.
It always
We
makes
watched
me.
his movie with Pedro, and so I was doing my thing, and I was like, the Coppola?
It always makes me annoyed when I hear just another like just everyone's a nepo baby. You know, like everyone in
Even Nick.
even Nick. I thought it was his wild performances. Nope, he just says a Coppola.
And just to
That's not how
tie a bow on this, Julia Roberts' brother's name is Eric, and he's her older brother.
Just,
Okay.
and he's Emma Roberts' dad. Okay, I was like, what's the...
Yes.
Oh, Thomas Wayne saved Falcone. Okay, I knew.
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
one of those
In the Batman in the movie, that's like the big thing is
Yeah, and
Thomas
it's
Wayne
a
did
comic
something
thing. I
to
think
help
we've
the
read
Falcone
it before.
family.
And, anyway,
Okay. All right, let's dive back in. Here we go. All right, up next, Pixar's Inside Out has jetted past Dune Part 2.
Inside Out 2.
Ooh, thank you. I realized it when I said Dune Part 2. I was like, wait, I knew it was 2 twos. Why did I mess up? Here we go. Pixar. All right, up next, Pixar's Inside Out 2 has jetted past Dune Part 2 to take the crown for top box office take of the year so far. Art house film The Bike Riders was highly marketed but opened at third place with $10 million. And Russell Crowe's horror flick The Exorcism didn't even scrape the bottom of the barrel at a $2.43 million opening. Who has the secret stuff? And will Deadpool and Wolverine unseat animation?
I am actually just now coming to the realization, like having this breakdown like read aloud to me. I think I looked at my show times this weekend. I don't even think there was a single showing for The Exorcism. So
I was going to ask, is it maybe a limited opening? Is that what? 'Cause a lot of
I
times
think
those
it might have been.
when
Okay.
something
was
opens on its first
really
weekend, it's
under what
that
they were
low.
Okay.
projecting,
Yeah.
even
that
for
could be that could be the case, but even so, I have no interest in The Exorcism. I never saw The Pope's Exorcist with Russell Crowe, but he seems to be on a kick when it comes to this religious horror stuff. So
Forgot he was in another Exorcist movie.
yeah,
like,
last year, or maybe it was a couple of years ago, but very very recently. But I do feel like a little bit of a yo-yo here. So coming off of last week, we were talking about how well Inside Out was doing, and it continues to do well. I think it came into close to another $100 million this weekend. So very, very successful, or what's the word I'm looking for? What is it when a movie sees fewer returns on a subsequent weekend? There's a term for that that's like completely escaping me right now.
Profitable.
Nobody?
When it you mean how far it drops? There's a term for that.
Yeah, there's like a term for it, like a percentage blank, and it's just like vacated my mind. Whatever. Okay,
We failed you.
That's okay.
Yeah,
I failed myself.
I know what you're talking about, but I don't know that it's.
There's a
term,
very specific word, and it's
percentage
just like I
fall,
cannot
percentage-
find that file in my brain right now, so it's
Mhm,
okay. But yeah, so basically to go from roughly $150 million to $100 million in the second weekend speaks to, not only is this just a quality film, it's got really, really strong word of mouth, and we're also seeing repeat viewings. That's the only way that you get that kind of hold. That's the word that I was looking for. The hold versus the drop. seeing the profitability between a movie as in its subsequent weekends there. So I did see The Bike Riders, and I enjoyed it. So I guess if you want to get a little bit of a mini multiverse review here, because I'm not sure that that's going to happen looking at these numbers here, I don't think the interest was there, but it was an enjoyable film. It's another one of those that I'm going to describe as a little bit more of a vibe than a satisfying narrative. It definitely puts you in this world and gave you this experience of being a bike rider. But again, I don't know if there was really any single character that I could kind of like glom onto and have a satisfying journey with. But all that being said, again, feeling like I'm kind of being jerked back and forth with, like we're saying, the box office is doing great. The box office is doing terrible. I think we're just going to have to, be a little patient, not be so reactive, and just kind of like ride things out and see how this summer really plays out. Because I will say this is encouraging. It's not the end all be all. It doesn't mean that the theater experience or the box office for the summer is saved. But with this successful first and second weekend, and knowing that Deadpool and Wolverine are just around the corner, again, as a fan of the movie theater experience, it's encouraging.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about Pixar over the last year that we've been a podcast, and we really talked a lot at the beginning, particularly of the show, about how Pixar was in a bad spot because they were putting out movies, but they weren't being received at the box office. And we talked a lot about Elemental. Like, Elemental had an okay box office run, but it took it a while. And then when it hit Disney Plus, people watched it. And we had this wider conversation about, is that Pixar now? Like, have they just kind of become pigeonholed into this idea of, you see a Pixar movie, but you don't see a Pixar movie in the theater, and you especially don't see an original Pixar movie in the theater, and I think we were like, oh yeah, if they put out Toy Story 5 or whatever, like, it'll probably do well, but if they're going to put out an original movie, who knows, right? And we saw Turning Red and some of these other ones that had come out just didn't do well, and weren't received well, and didn't have great box offices, or ended up straight on Disney Plus, in the case of like Soul and some of the other ones. And so you kind of entered this place where it was like, what does the future of Pixar even look like? And I think this box office has shown us a couple things about what that future does look like. And I like it for Pixar. I think it's good for them as I mean, I'm a fan of their work. I've watched all their movies at some point, but still, like, this tells me that they're going to focus a lot more on sequels, that we're probably not going to get a lot of original Pixar movies, I would say, in the next few years. I know they have one in the pipe called, like, Elio, I think is what it's called. It's like a space sort of thing or whatever. Like, I mean, they're probably looking at that and saying, like, is this a Disney Plus movie? Like, are we still going to do that? Or, like, does this embolden you if you're Bob Iger and say, like, all right, Pixar's on the up and up, like, let's go for it. Let's put the original stuff back in. We know they have Toy Story 5 coming, like, but do we put the original stuff back in? Or does this make you look at it and go, you know what, let's stick the sequels in theaters. Let's roll back the originals for Disney Plus. Let's try to build the base there. It's tricky. I always go back to the Spider-Verse movies, which the first Spider-Verse movie did not have like a fantastic box office, but it was very well received critically, and people talked about it. And then it hit people's TVs. Like, it hit cable, it hit streaming, people started watching it, and they built the base for that movie on streaming. And then when Spider-Verse 2 came out, it did huge numbers, right? Because people had watched it. They didn't necessarily go see it in the theater, but then they had gone out and they had seen it later when the second one came out. And I think Pixar can kind of do a similar thing, right? Like, think about Elemental. I bet if they put out an Elemental 2, I bet it'd do good. Like, sure. Because I think a lot of people have seen it, even though it didn't have a great box office run. I mean, I bet it would be successful if they did Elemental 2. So I think they're in a good spot. I mean, but I think there's still a lot of questions that have to be answered about Pixar. But this is encouraging. I mean, not just for the box office, but for that particular branch of Disney, if that's something that you're a fan of.
This world of franchises, this world of sequels is just so... I love it. It's one of my favorite things. A connected universe is something I love. But, like, it's so dark. This world where, like, all of the funding and all of the money and all the creative minds are getting just kind of bought up and put on projects to, like, fulfill a franchise's needs instead of, like, creating something new. And I really hope that, that you just have to see the long tail of it. Because you can't be releasing everything on Disney Plus and expect people to think of a sequel to that as something that's theater worthy. Like, let's say you mentioned the Elia or whatever. Let's say they decided to make it a Disney Plus. We've never seen one go from like a streaming movie then getting a sequel that gets catapulted into the stratosphere of, you've got to start there. I mean, you can build a franchise on TV or something that eventually gets a movie, but it's just so rare and it's so hard.
Says the Star Trek fan.
Yeah, the thinking of that exactly. You can do it. It's just really rare. That's one example I can think of. And those don't do that well. Star Trek movies don't do that well for the most part. They've had a few shining successes in their runs in theaters, but mostly it's a TV series. It just makes me sad to think about these big studios, and Disney's the biggest of them, just rolling up all the content and making only sequels and eating up all the theater time and eating up all the budgets and eating up all the investments and not also investing. They need to just have an arm of their company for their own good, because otherwise you eat up everything in sight and you never create something new that can flourish 10 years from now. Like the sequels to Inside Out, the sequel to you mentioned like Elemental could be a good one to do. You can't ever get to that sequel if you never have the first one. So you got to keep making first ones of stuff and taking bets. And so hopefully that won't be the lesson.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Was Elemental the one they put in theaters and pulled quickly and then put back in theaters after it had been on Disney Plus for a while?
I don't think it got pulled quickly. It was the first theatrical release after a couple of years.
Yeah.
Because
Did they do that,
Onward
though?
was the one that was in theaters right when the pandemic
Right.
happened, and they yanked it and put it on Disney Plus. But
Didn't they put it back out in theaters though, and it did much better after it had been on Disney
only
Plus?
other one that I'm thinking of is Encanto, and that's not Pixar, that's Disney animation.
Yeah.
But I could see. Okay.
Maybe I made that up. I feel like I
Okay.
remember that. But
It's-
this does embolden Bob Iger. This is what he said he wants to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Moana will be an interesting litmus test in November. Will the Moana sequel do?
I think that
really well?
Moana,
We'll find out.
transferring that series into a movie, giving them the expectation, a lot of people won't know that, and they're going to have the expectation that this is a full sequel to Moana, and they're going to go in with the expectations of like they just saw Inside Out 2 and thinking it's, here's the big, sequel to Inside Out 2, here's the big sequel to Moana, and it's just not going to be that. I don't think that's going to have what who knows, but it is
Yeah.
a TV series converted to movie, and I've never seen that work well.
We talk too a lot about how like you always have to remember when you're selling a movie ticket and it's for a kids movie or a family movie, you have to remember who's buying the ticket, and it's not the kids, it's the parents. And so you have to put something in theaters that they will want to see as a family, because the parents don't want to sit there for 2 hours and watch something that they're not interested in. And I think like
based on the number of people I see on their phones in theaters these days, I don't know about that.
Please, I am too.
but I'm like sitting there thinking like, if I'm going to go see a movie with my kids, like, I mean, this is why the Super Mario Brothers movie did so well, right? It was like it hit that line. Like people who were older wanted to see it because of the nostalgia factor of it. People that were younger wanted to see it, and it crossed it. And same with Inside Out. Like people saw Inside Out when they were younger, like millennials saw it. Then they had kids, and those kids were young, and they showed them Inside Out, and now they're taking their kids to see Inside Out too. So it's hitting that area where it's like the parents want to see it because they have fond memories of Inside Out, and the kids want to see it because it's a movie that they're interested in. And it's the same reason why Toy Story 5 will do well and Moana 2 will do well, is because those movies are popular with adults in the same way that they're popular with kids. And like I'm thinking about Wish, like Wish did not do great at the box office. It was like an animated movie, Disney put it out, and it's just like what separates these two. It's like Wish and Inside Out. It's like it's the sequel effect, it's the all of that type of stuff, but it's this line that they have to find. But yeah, I think like we said, it's going to mean less of movies like Wish and more of movies like Inside Out too.
All in the Game in the chat said Soul. Soul was the one they released this year after it had been on Disney Plus.
Oh,
I'm
that's
not-
right. Yeah, I
I'm not
remember that
crazy.
now.
They put out all three movies that were released
Yeah.
during the pandemic. They put them back out in theaters.
Yeah.
Okay.
I got to
All
see
right.
Turning Red on the big screen. Loved it.
Yeah.
I
like
love
Turning
Soul.
Red.
Soul is one of my favorite Pixar movies, I think, of all of them. I thought it was great.
Nice. All right, up next. At this point, Blade isn't in purgatory. It is officially in development hell. Between the writers and actors strikes, actors, writers, and directors being let go and leaving the project, it seems almost impossible that Mahershala Ali's Blade will ever see the light of day. But Hollywood Reporter claims both Ali and Marvel boss Kevin Feige seem like they don't want to drive a stake through the movie just yet. Regardless of the lengthy development timeline, obvious loss of money, revolving door of talent, complete changes to the story, and more, Ali and Feige won't give in to the hunger, but have fans.
Oh man, the Hollywood Reporter just spilled all the tea on Blade. I mean, they were like talking to all the sources, just gathered everything up, and there was a lot of new information in this that, like, I found myself being like, what, like multiple times while reading this, like as I kept coming across things in it. So I'll highlight a few of them, and then we can kind of talk about it. Some of the more interesting things that I thought were in it. One is that Mahershala Ali apparently has full creative control over this movie, and that was part of his contract. That like it is his thing. Like they wrote it as he is in the driver's seat, and to me, that's probably why this movie is in the state that it's in. There were multiple times that we know that there's been two directors, but we know that there's been multiple times that Marvel has brought writers and directors to the table, and then Ali has come back with his own writers and directors that he would rather work with, and it just does not seem like him and Feige are really seeing eye to eye on what this movie is or what it can be. To me, that was kind of the read between the lines of it all, is that not to look at Ali as a diva or anything, but just that he is in control of this thing, and it does not seem like there is a cohesive vision between Marvel Studios and him, and that's led to problems. Another big tidbit was that the original the original movie that was supposed to start shooting last year was evidently set in the 1920s. Mia Goth was supposed to play some sort of villain who was trying to get the blood of Blade's daughter, and that was going to be like the main plot line of the whole thing. And that's not the case anymore. The new script that's being rewritten is being written in the present day. So they've completely shifted the movie. They've completely shifted it away from what it was. They built an entire train set piece, like a whole train set piece that cost millions of dollars they were going to use in the movie that they now cannot. And so Disney is going to use it in another feature. They had to like find a way to put the train into another movie because they just wasted all of these resources on this movie that is, not happening evidently or whatever. The article called it a victim of the too much era of Marvel, which I think is interesting. That's something that stood out to me, was like, we've talked a lot about how after Endgame they really turned the faucet on. They said, we're doing all these projects, we're doing all these Disney Plus shows, and I think we're kind of in agreement that has not worked out the way that maybe we thought it would at the original onset of those announcements. And so now we're sitting on the other end of it with people who want to make a thing, but they can't agree on what the thing is. But they announced it at a time where there was a lot of hype around it, but now it's years later, and what do we do with that, right? If you want to look optimistically, the article does say Mia Goth is still attached somehow. Mahershala Ali is still interested, but that he is frustrated. And man, I don't know. I don't think this thing's gonna get made. I mean, like after reading this, like I'm looking at it and I'm just like, how are we gonna do this now? Like, it's clear he wants like an HBO style thing, and they don't. Like, it's clear that there's just not a matched vision. I just don't know how you get through that. Like, it's messy. I mean, this is a messy production.
That's a big red flag for me. The idea of giving nothing against Mahershala Ali, but the idea of giving any star of the movie that much creative control is
Ryan
always
Reynolds has something to say.
Yeah, Ryan Reynolds is an exception. I think his Deadpool worked out, but Edward Norton is the one that came to mind for me with like the different visions that literally Kevin Feige versus Edward Norton versus the way they wanted to make that movie, the kind of movies they wanted to make. And then, we turned out that same summer with Iron Man and the Hulk, and they're just completely different tones. And that was just, apparently Ed Norton had a lot of creative control in those.
Different.
I don't know. It's a lot more mopey. It's a lot less
I like
fun.
that Incredible Hulk film a lot more than other people.
Yeah,
so.
I hear you. It's not the worst thing ever, but one of the worst of Marvel to me. And I just think that, like, a lot of times I have not seen Mahershala Ali. I don't know what he's produced before, but like, yeah, he's I don't know. It's just always the red flag for me when the stars. It reminds me like I said, Edward Norton, but also reminds me of like the Vin Diesel Rock stuff, where it's like you get letting the actors who are making big story decisions and stuff doesn't always work. I feel like sometimes not saying it could be great. It could be that Mahershala Ali has the exact vision for it. But even still, if you're not working with the right, keeping control over all those people and like getting them all working together and like getting the right talent matched the right way is a different skill set than acting. You know what I mean? And like some actors may have it, but not all do. And a lot of times it ends up being a disaster in my opinion. But we'll see. That may not be why, but like, yeah. It sounds like at least partially why, with the two disagreeing so much and butting heads. The dogs are barking.
I had a different read on that part of it. To me, it sounds like Feige wants Mahershala Ali involved, and Ali wants this to be his Black Panther. Like, he really wants this to be a statement piece in the MCU, and I think that if he has that passion, Kevin Feige responds to people like that, and I don't think that it's that they're necessarily butting heads. This movie was a sufferer of the strikes, and like the article said, unlike Thunderbolts and another Marvel movie, a lot of the talent walked away or was released because of the strikes. They didn't retain them for whatever reason. And so it's the Bob Iger retakeover, it's the cutting back on Marvel, it's the talent thing, it's the rewrites. I mean, I think it's everything, literally everything working against this movie. And I think Feige and Ali are like, but we really want to make it, like, because I think Blade is really important to Kevin Feige too. And so that was kind of my take on the article when I read through it. And I hope it gets made, but I hope that all of this time and all of these issues don't work against it to where like the hype level of fans is just uncontrollable because they've waited so long and there's been all this stuff about it, and then it doesn't quote meet their expectations even if it's a fantastic film. That's my worry for the movie, more than anything else at this point.
Yeah, we talked about this a little bit last week, and I don't think my position has changed all that much, but I do want to give some credit to our guest host, Sarah Day McDougal. She kind of posited, she said, like, with this film having so much trouble, what is it about Mahershala Ali? And I said, I don't know that it's him. And now that we're hearing about this level of creative control that he has, I think I am falling somewhere in the middle. I don't think he's the problem per se, but I do think it's a little bit of a foible when we're trying to get a unified vision. And I look at that quote about he wants this to be his Black Panther. Makes a lot of sense when you're an established actor with some clout, especially with an Oscar winning, or I don't know if he won the Oscar for Moonlight, but Moonlight won the Oscar. So coming off of something like that, people are paying attention to you and what you have to say in the projects that you choose. So that makes a lot of sense. But is Blade the right character for that? Blade is not Black Panther. Blade is a different character. I think there are opportunities to address some social commentary there. There's always opportunities to address social commentary. It's just like, how are you going to do it in a clever way that doesn't feel shoehorned in? And when I look at the character of Blade and my exposure to Blade, we don't need to do the Wesley Snipes thing all over again, but we also don't need to do Black Panther. And like, I've been on record, like, Marvel really needs to do something about getting these budgets under constraint. And I really do. I look at Blade and like, that is the perfect kind of character. Horror movies are known for being able to have a little bit of a smaller budget, utilize more practical effects. So those are kind of my hopes for Blade. And maybe that's not jiving with what Mahershala Ali wants. So I said it last week, but I'm kind of double down on it. As disappointing as it was to not have this production, get off the ground last June, in the great scheme of things, maybe it was the best thing, because again, I'm going to use that word, unified vision. I don't know how much disagreement there is happening between Mahershala Ali and Kevin Feige or whatever other creatives are involved. But anytime that there is, debates about what the story is going to be, that's not the way that you want to start this thing. You don't want to figure it out as you're going. Like, this is a character and a project that's been in the works for so long. Like, if you're not knocking it out of the park when this thing finally comes out, we're all going to be, poking all the holes in it and looking at all all the Frankenstein framework and what have you.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're going to have to wait a little bit. I mean, because not only are they going to have to rewrite this thing to satisfy all parties, but Michael B. Jordan and Ryan Coogler are developing a period piece that's a vampire film right now. Like, you know, like if you're Marvel, you're kind of looking at that like, when is that coming out? Like, we don't want Blade coming out then. Like, that's not good for either movie, you know? So it's tricky. And Mahershala Ali, he's been cast in this new Jurassic World reboot that's filming now. I mean, so he's, you know, he's busy. Like, he's got stuff going on. Like, if I'm Feige, I'm telling him, like, go to your Jurassic World movie. Like, let's do it. But, like, let's give it a little bit of time. Like, let's push it a little bit. Even though that seems insane because it's been so long. It's just, I feel like it's the only move at this point if this thing ever is going to happen. You just got to take some time.
Yeah. Especially if you're
my
recalibrating the
Pollyanna
whole thing.
hat on because I'm like, well, Jon Hamm has a role he wants to play, and he's just. Now I know the difference is they've tried with Blade. I get that, but I'm kind of part of me is kind of like, what's the difference?
Well, it's not a for what I was saying. It's not an aspect of like having a role you really want to play and taking ownership of that role and feeling passionate about it. That's all wonderful, but giving a lot of creative control to a star, in my opinion, often backfires. And like Chadwick Boseman's amazing at Black Panther, but that movie is driven by Ryan Coogler's like vision. I think like Ryan Coogler, like Mahershala Ali needs his Ryan Coogler, and like that is so sad to me. The idea that like he's saying, I want to make my Black Panther be this 20s vampire Blade movie, and then the team that created Black Panther, you know, it was, you know, Coogler and Michael B. Jordan going over and make a 20s vampire movie is so like
we know
the slap in their head.
The Michael B. Jordan, Ryan Coogler. We just know it's a period piece. I don't know that we know that it's in the the 20s, but maybe that information has come out. But with that in mind, I do kind of want to address the. I am blanking on names. We just said her name, Mia Goth. Yeah. The fact that she's remained attached to this. So we're talking about, you know, Mahershala Ali's involvement in his creative control, but what is it about Mia Goth that she's just been fine to be like, yeah, whatever this project looks like, whatever phase it's in, I'm cool. I'm just on board. Does she really want to work with Mahershala Ali? Does she really want to be in Marvel? And I guess we did learn, like Jay, you alluded to it a little bit, but she was going to play Lilith, who in the Marvel comics is the daughter of Dracula. You know, if you're familiar with the biblical Lilith, a little bit different of a character there. So it's just interesting to see that she has been so steadfast with this project, and it will be interesting to see who she does ultimately end up playing.
Absolutely. All right, well, if you guys would like to help us purchase the train set that we want to build, but we can't afford, so we're trying to buy it from Disney right now to put into Multiverse News. We heard they have this great train set. We
could definitely get it at a discount.
Yeah, we need more patrons, though, to get there. So if you want to help us be a patron of Multiverse News, we make the show every week. We love making it, but we put a lot of work into it. And so we would love the support so we could make even more of it, put more energy into it. We want to just like make this show the best it can be. So check out patreon.com/multiverse newscast. You can find us there. And it's just a little $4 a month. And you get ad-free access as well as patron polls and patron contests and all that stuff. So please check that out. Patreon.com/multiverse newscast. And we'll be right back. What were you going to say?
I just made a noise.
Oh, okay. I didn't know the way you started to move your mouth. I thought you were trying to say something. I cut you off.
No, you're good.
Okay, cool. Welcome back to Multiverse News. So we have a Spotify poll this week. I always love when I'm not the one that gets to make these because they're always fun to read when I'm not here to make them. So the last week's poll was, do you smell what Dwayne Johnson is cooking? Very divisive poll. We have 24% of you said yes, and I want some. 22% of you said no, but I want to. 22% of you said no, just no. And the winner of the poll with 31%, so not that high of a winner, is yes and no thank you. So
I smell it, but I'm not interested.
Yeah. So you know, we nearly like a ranked choice situation because I feel like it's not the majority of people that are saying no thank you to the smell that is coming off of that culinary situation with The Rock, but yeah.
Hey, stick around for the lightning round. We got a little Dwayne Johnson news snuck in here at the last minute.
Yeah, we do. I think it looks fun. Stupid, but fun. All right, we're going to dive in to our lightning round. You guys know how we do this. I'm going to read a story, and then all the panelists have the chance to claim it by buzzing in with their name, and you get one rebuttal throughout the entirety of the lightning round to keep it tight and get through as many stories as we can. So here we go.
Get it tight, get it right.
Thank you.
I think I inverted that.
Ludicrous?
Tight.
Is it get it right, get it tight, get it right?
It kind of flips. Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
you got it.
You got it.
Okay.
We all got it. We got the reference.
It's a circle, like yeah.
Ouroboros.
You can jump in at any point. It's fine.
it's around. Megan, the hit horror movie from James Wan's Atomic Monster and James Blum's Blumhouse, is getting a spin-off titled Soulmate, a thriller that expands the Megan universe is set for release on January 2nd, 2026.
Scotty, I enjoyed Megan. My chief complaint about it is that it was PG-13, where I think it really would have been that much more enjoyable if they went all out with an R rating. So I look at the title Soulmate, and that gives me mitigated hope that maybe this will be a more mature outing in the Megan universe. But if it ends up being another PG-13 cash grab, if it's as fun as Megan, I won't be complaining all that much.
Now, they did give a little bit of plot details. Do you want to know?
Yeah, lay it on me.
Because what you're saying, I feel like I need to tell you this because it kind of goes with what you're saying.
By all
is that
means.
apparently
It's got to be a sex doll
the
thing,
basic the basic plot is
I
that
figured
it's
as
like
much.
some sort of like it's sex it's like
Yeah,
some
I
kind
figured as
of android AI thing that he's in a relationship with, kind of
Yeah.
like type thing. So yeah, I think it's probably going to lean into that rated R weirdness.
Mm-hmm. I gotta say, tiny butt. I watched the first half of Megan, maybe the first 45 minutes or whatever, and I was like, PG-13. My niece wanted to watch it. I was like, she's 13. Let's watch it. And when the old lady starts getting her face pressure washed off, I had to turn it off. Like it was too far for a PG-13 rating. It went pretty gory and pretty gross. I was just like, no, I can't. This is too much. Sorry.
Disagree.
Wrong.
Fair. All right. Donald Sutherland, the beloved let me wait till before I read this sad one before the Alexa stops going off. Okay. We went until 8:30. That's when the Alexa goes off. Okay. Donald Sutherland, the beloved actor who starred in scores of films such as The Dirty Dozen, MASH, Clute, Animal House, Ordinary People, Pride and Prejudice, and the Hunger Games franchise, and also won an Emmy for Citizen X, died last Thursday in Miami after a long illness. He was 88.
Haley? Sad. I love Donald Sutherland and Pride and Prejudice in the 2005 one. He's so lovely as girl dad Mr. Bennett. But I read the Variety article when he passed away when I was on vacation, and it was interesting to read, especially about the Hunger Games, which we've been talking about lately, that he kind of made the role of Snow in that movie what it was, because he was kind of compelled by the character, and it was going to be a very couple line sort of thing, and he really elevated it. So without Donald Sutherland, we don't get the prequel Snow. So just an amazing actor. So cool.
Yeah, an amazing career. Thanks for when you wrote this. I think it was Haley, right? Thanks for including all those movies. It just highlights such an amazing career. HBO has officially greenlit the first show under DC Studios titled Lanterns. The series has been given an 8-episode straight-to-series order by HBO, with Chris Mundy serving as showrunner and executive producer. Matt, I just am excited about this, and I'm excited about the name too. It not just being Green Lantern and being lanterns, to me shows that they're going to open up the spectrum, the spectrum of lanterns that there are to this show. And I'm sure the Green Lanterns will be the protagonist to some degree, but I would really as much as that. I don't know much about Green Lantern really at all, and so some of my earliest exposure. I mean, I'd seen him in Justice League and stuff, but I never like really read Green Lantern much. So some of my earliest exposure was the Ryan Reynolds stuff, and I was still excited about like Sinestro and the Yellow Lantern and all that stuff that was going on at the end of the movie, and I was sad we never got a follow-up. So I just, and ever since then I've sort of been like fascinated watching YouTube videos on like what the different color lanterns do and all that stuff, and I just really would love to see that brought to screen in a cool way, and a prestige HBO series entitled Lanterns that seems like it's going to explore a broader spectrum really, really pumps me up. Really, really cool.
Scotty, with a quick rebuttal, I'm right there with you in terms of being excited for this thing, but what does have me scratching my head a little bit is like, how did this end up being the first show under DC Studios? Like, we know Peacemaker season 2 is actively in production, and then
which is also HBO.
Yeah, and then Creature Commandos is supposed to be our first formal introduction to the DCU, and that's animation. So that's been worked, it's been worked on for a long time at this point in time. So in the great scheme of things, the average fan doesn't care about the label behind, but it's just kind of it did have me like, it gave me pause for a second, like how did that end up happening?
I'm sure it just has something to do with the labeling, like sure. with James Gunn taking over, they probably rebranded it as DC Studios and trying to do the whole Marvel having its own branch thing of making movies,
Sure.
and probably those other movies were in production before and probably other production companies attached, but this is under that banner. But like you said, though, it's background stuff that doesn't matter to the to the actual watcher, the end watcher, unless there's some weird.
They are doing a little rebrand too. I think it was today. Like they're changing their Max shows to be labeled like HBO TV or something. Like they are kind of shifting that stuff around. I know. They're doing it again. Yeah, there was HBO Max. There was we know, but HBO Go. I mean, come on. But yeah, that's what it is.
So stupid.
First live action series.
Yeah, they've thrown out their branding for years now with like, we're Max now. We're not HBO, we're Max. And then it's like, but now we don't want to lose it completely. We need that.
They love tinkering.
Drama prestige. With it. Give us back the HBO name.
The whole box office is so iconic. Why? Whatever.
Yep. Agreed.
That was a year ago. I'm not talking about it.
We're done talking about that. But I just want to mention Chris Mundy. He's executive producer on Ozark and True Detective, at least one of the seasons of True Detective. So that sounds really even better for like a gritty Lantern series.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm pumped. Sounds awesome. All right, Jonathan Majors is set to star in the revenge thriller Merciless, which is based on an original screenplay by Frank Hanna. Martin Villeneuve, the younger brother of filmmaker Denis Villeneuve, will direct. The film will mark Major's first role since his third-degree assault and harassment conviction earlier this year.
Jay, I mean, there's not too much to say other than that it's just happening. We have talked a little bit about Majors because of the whole trial and all that, and the Kang and all that type of stuff was going on whenever we really started this show. And so we've kind of had to follow all of that and all of the information that came with it. But, he is trying to get back out there. He's going to be in a movie. It's going to be small, but, he is getting back out there. And it's there's not much else to say about it past that. But definitely something just worth mentioning because it is something that is happening.
Tiny Butt starring in a revenge thriller called Merciless.
Yeah, maybe
after
maybe could have thought about it a little more.
After that conviction, I don't think it was not thought through. I think that's like he's like steering into that. Like he's got this reputation now, and now he's like, well, I mean, he already was like with Creed 3. He was already playing a very like brutal character, and he even as Kang, they were planning to use him for that. So like now that he has like literal assault convictions, they're like, all right, it just feels like you might want to do a little more like management of your image, but like this feels like just going all in, kind of. Oof.
That is interesting, Scotty, with a tiny butt. I didn't think I had a response to this one, but with the little bit of discourse there, it does make me think about the last film he did that, to my knowledge, still hasn't been released, but Magazine Dreams had a lot of hype and anticipation around it, and the little like blurb that I remember reading sounded like a kind of similar role where you have like this person that's becoming obsessed with their physique and willing to go to like, you know, certain lengths to kind of encourage that that primal and animalistic pursuit. So all that being said, you know, more power to him. If he thinks it's time for him to come back to work, that's his choice. That's well within his right. But if I was his, you know, PR manager, whether I thought he was innocent or guilty, I would still say just take a little bit more time away. Give people time to miss you.
At least, I don't know. I guess I haven't paid much attention, as much as we paid attention to the casting stuff of it all. I haven't really heard what he has said since the conviction, or if anything. And I guess sometimes I just need those guys like that have, if you've done something bad, to just like make it some sort of amends, to speak on it, like talk about the way you're trying to change. But just jumping right into a movie called Merciless feels not like doing that. But I don't know. I haven't really followed the real behind the scenes of what he said, so I can't really say that. Paramount has released the first trailer for Smile 2, the follow-up to Parker Finn's 2022 horror hit. The film debuts in theaters on October 18th.
Scotty, I really enjoyed the first Smile, so I am I'm excited for the sequel here. And the trailer, you know, I thought it looked decent. I thought it looked like it was, you know, doing a lot of what the first film did successfully, and kind of upping the ante. So my expectations are reserved. You know, when it comes to horror sequels, it can be a case of diminishing returns, but with the, you know, the success of the last one and kind of the sensibilities that Parker Finn kind of put on display there, it's kind of the best of both worlds. It's primarily horror, but with some really good, you know, laughs in there, if that's your kind of thing, which it is mine. So
Sicko. DC Comics pulled an unpublished cover art. Oh, I'm sorry. DC Comics pulled all unpublished cover artwork by artist Frank Francesco Mattina after Adi Granov and Scott Williams accused him of using AI in recently released cover artwork. Williams is the inking partner of publisher and CCO Jim Lee at DC.
Haley, I didn't want to put this story in there, but I think it's very relevant in the time that we are living. This is not the first time this artist has had these allegations. This is actually tacked on to some stuff that happened in 2019, but they did pull all of his September 2024 cover issues. And so it's just like, do we really even have to be having this conversation? And apparently we do.
It's wild.
Is there any coming back from that? Like, you are an artist. Like, if any community that should be against AI,
I mean,
it's an
I feel like
artist.
twice.
Like, what's that?
I feel like getting two times allegations is
Yeah. It's like, how have you continued to work after the first one?
Well, like, yeah, it's so tough too, because like, were they proven? Are these allegations? And I mean, they're just allegations at this point.
I believe so.
But is it like a for sure thing?
If they
this is
pulled
AI?
the artwork,
Yes.
I mean, that's,
it seems like they're leaning toward it's likely, but I
Yeah.
guess I just don't know. It's crazy. It's crazy.
rough.
It got me thinking like this existential. It got me on an existential like dread thing where I was thinking about like how sad the state of humanity is that you get to this like. You are inking comics for like the one of the biggest comic book companies, some of the biggest characters, and you're like, I don't know. I feel like we should find fulfillment in our work. Like I started like thinking like, would I? Because I mean, I edit these podcasts and I'm like interested in some AI tools that help you like cut faster and stuff, or like edit the video faster. The stuff that I don't actually enjoy, you know, the parts of this. But I'm not interested in like an AI guy to like make my arguments for me. You know what I mean? I want to have conversations with human beings. It just, I don't know. It just put me in a dark place reading this.
Yeah, no, they were able to identify AI elements in the covers, as well as, I forget what the term was, like the spread of art or something. There's some other term that had to do with AI nonsense, and bad.
Damn. A Spaceballs sequel is in development at Amazon MGM Studios. Josh Gad is set to star and will produce alongside Mel Brooks.
Scotty, this news came out last week, but just as we were like actively recording last week's episode, so we didn't get to talk about it. I I like Mel Brooks. I'd say my favorite of his is probably Spaceballs. But that being said, I don't think I have the same level of endearment that many people probably do. But I'd be open to checking out a sequel. It seems like it's probably something that's going to go straight to streaming, I would imagine. And then looking at Josh Gad being attached, it's like, who is he going to play? Probably Barf's, maybe a new version of Barf, maybe picking up the role from John Candy, maybe a relative of Barf, or maybe they're going to go in the complete opposite direction and he is the leading man, the prince, the protagonist. Who knows? But one way or another, we know that the Schwartz is strong with Spaceballs 2.
Mm-hmm. Patrick Dempsey has joined the cast of Dexter Original Sin as a series regular. He is set to portray Aaron Spencer, the captain of Miami Metro Homicide, who has a decades-long relationship with Christian Slater's Harry Morgan.
Scotty? I can see on paper why this seems like a good get. Patrick Dempsey just popped up in last year's Thanksgiving, where he had a great turn. But, it's just everything about this series. It feels so unnecessary to me. I want to be excited for this one. It's great talent all across the board, but there's just nothing about it that is exciting me. So
Tiny Butt.
We'll see. Yeah.
This casting made me think about Dexter. Like the casting is clear. This is going to be Harry. I think it started making me think about who the protagonist is of this show, and I have a feeling based on this casting and casting someone else in the police department that this might be more Harry's show than Dexter's. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Like I started thinking about like the arc of Harry's character and the darkness that he has to sort of like take on in a relationship with Dexter, trying to curb Dexter's darkness, maybe like sort of, I mean, literally teaching him to kill is just such a dark thing for him to do. And as like a upstanding, righteous, like, policeman, and then like having to deal with that in his life, what will that do to him and what will that do to his relationships like this one? And my first thought is like, when is Harry going to kill this guy to cover up for Dexter? You know what I mean? Like at what point in the series
or have Dexter kill him?
Yeah, or have Dexter, but no, like only if he's bad though, right? So like that's the thing. Will Harry do things that are even more immoral than Dexter? He's teaching Dexter to do to protect Dexter, and that's brings up thoughts about like Last of Us and that sort of like parenting and what does it mean and to like love your child more than the world and like all. I don't know. It's yeah. This like weirdly made me think a lot about the plot of what they're going to be doing with the show and how that could be interesting. Okay.
I hope they give it that level of care and passion that you're describing there. But based on the last season of Dexter and even that little follow-up we got a couple of years ago, which was good for the most part, but it definitely it fumbled the landing, or the ending, rather. Yeah.
I hear you. Sources tell Deadline that Oscar Isaac and Carey Mulligan are in negotiations to star in Season 2 of the Netflix and A24 anthology series Beef. The roles Isaac and Mulligan would be playing were rumored to be for Jake Gyllenhaal and Anne Hathaway, but that ultimately did not come to fruition.
Jay, we've heard that this second season is going to deal with these like two different couples. Like we know, I believe that Kaylee Spaney is involved on the other side, and so to get Oscar Isaac in there and Carey Mulligan, like those are good gets for a show like this. Like Beef season 1, I mean, I've said a million times on this show that I really liked it, and it's really funny, but it's super dramatic too, and it's like, I mean, you saw Steven Yeun and Ali Wong played the whole spectrum of a character on that show, and so I see that in Oscar Isaac and Carey Mulligan. Like I see the capability to do that as well. Like these are actor and an actress that I've seen kind of portray wide swaths of emotion and characters. So yeah, I'm interested in it just because of the property. I think it's good and solid. And this to me, I mean, Jake Gyllenhaal and Anne Hathaway, like I like them, but this is a good sub in my mind.
Awesome. Apple Films has acquired the rights to The Wives, an original film produced by A24 and starring Jennifer Lawrence. The Wives is described as a murder mystery inspired by the Real Housewives franchise.
Haley? I don't know. It sounds fun.
Yeah, it does.
I believe
It
Jennifer
makes me-
Lawrence is going to be producing as well. Like this is a
Yeah.
passion project for her.
It makes me think of there was a show with Jennifer Godwin, where they kind of like murdered their husbands. I forget what that show was called, which I didn't watch, but hopefully maybe this gets more hype. I don't know. That was
Cool.
a useless comment. Sorry.
No, none of you were the one with the best comment. You claimed it. At the Ace Superhero Comic Con, actor star and let me try that again. At the Ace Superhero Comic Con, Andor star Diego Luna revealed that more characters from Rogue One will appear in season 2 of Andor.
Haley, I won't spoil on here who the leak that came out of this comment I think was. You can find it if you want it, but if you loved Rogue One and if you're a Star Wars fan, you probably did. This is exciting.
Matt
It's a good
Reeves.
call because I was about to just spoil it straight up. I was
I
about to
don't
be
know.
like,
I mean,
"Oh
I don't
yeah,
know.
it
Maybe
was
people wanna be
this person."
surprised.
So no, but you're right. Like we shouldn't spoil it, but I was just about to jump the gun. So it's a good thing you got in.
Yeah, see, Haley.
I
Don't
mean, you
ever-
could have edited it, but whatever.
Don't ever doubt yourself, Haley.
We're live on YouTube forever, my friend.
Matt Reeves' upcoming adult animated series Batman Caped Crusader has just announced several key voice castings. Hamish Linklater will be voicing Batman/Bruce Wayne. Christina Ricci will be voicing Catwoman/Selena Kyle. Jamie Chung will be voicing Harley Quinn. And Dietrich Bader will be voicing Harvey Dent/Two-Face.
Scotty, the most interesting choice here is the fact that Dietrich Bader is going to be voicing Harvey Dent Two-Face rather than Batman, because on the Harley Quinn animated series, he has been voicing Batman, and he has been one of my favorite renditions of Batman in the wake of Kevin Conroy. So that being said, we talked about Hamish Linklater a few weeks back. I'm struggling to remember what he sounds like off the top of my head, but I have no doubt that he has the ability to, change his voice, and they obviously heard something there, and that's why they cast him. But we got some promotional artwork for this one as well, and it looks like the Batman design is going to be doing that design where the ears are a little bit more on the side of his head rather than sitting on top of his head. And whenever I see that, it just always takes me back to that, very first like 1930s appearance of the character with with the purple gloves and using a gun and everything like that. So it's interesting as the character has been around for as long as he has. We've had tons of people play the role and voice various characters, but I'm just encouraged as these characters continue to persist. More and more people are being given the opportunity to lend their voices.
Nice. Danny and Michael Filippo, the Australian twin filmmaking duo behind last year's surprise horror hit Talk to Me, are no longer working on Street Fighter, Legendary's feature adaptation of the classic video game from Capcom due to scheduling conflicts.
Scotty, I see this news and it doesn't really disappoint me because it sounds like they're just busy. It doesn't sound like it was creative differences. I believe them when they say it was scheduling conflicts. So I loved Talk to Me. I thought it was a incredibly impressive debut film from these former YouTubers, made filmmakers. But yeah, the fact that they're working on a sequel to that film, as well as, I think I would rather see them do their own thing. They're obviously, I'm sure they have a passion for Street Fighter and probably other adapted material that they want to work on eventually. But coming out of the gate so strong with an original idea, I would really like to see them just expand their brand before, they work on established IP.
Marvel Comics announced that the current Star Wars and Darth Vader comic storylines will each come to an end with an oversized issue number 50, as the comics have caught up to the Return of the Jedi. Marvel will relaunch Star Wars comics, but no further information is known.
Haley, I have not read a lot of Star Wars comics because there's a lot of them, just like there's a lot of everything Star Wars. So I want to. This particular storyline takes place between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, which is why they're ending the storylines. And then they have promised that even just later this year, like these are going to end in September. later this year after that, they'll start relaunching a new Star Wars comic storyline. So we don't know what era that will take place in. Maybe a new one. That would be cool. I would love to see some new, fresh comics from them.
Sweet. A24 has released the first trailer for The Front Room, a psychological horror thriller directed by Max and Sam Eggers and starring Brandy Norwood in her return to horror. The film debuts on September 6th. Matt with a pre-butt. Wait,
That's a first.
Why are you guys making me watch these horror trailers? Why? There's
a bunch this week.
There's a bunch this
just
week.
don't
We haven't even talked about the scariest one yet.
There's a
which is
bunch
later.
all the weeks. You say it's the scariest one, but this one really messed me up. My very religious mother just moved in with us, so this was just a whole different different level for me. I don't like it. Sorry, that's my pre-butt. Go for it, Scotty.
It was a great pre-butt, because I was just going to say, before this week, I didn't know that Denis Villeneuve had a brother that was a filmmaker, and now we know that Robert Eggers has not one but two brothers that are filmmakers. So what's up with the siblings coming out of the woodwork? You let your older sibling establish
Oh,
themselves and like, hey,
babies.
me too.
A
I
new.
thought you were going to ask, is Brandy Norwood Brandy? Like and the answer is yes.
Oh, it is, yes.
Oh, yeah, that brand.
I didn't-
Brandy.
I didn't need that question answered, Jay. I know some things about pop culture outside of movies.
Yeah.
It's for the
Might not
listeners.
know.
It's for the listeners, okay? They're like, oh,
The
dang,
youths of
dang,
the
I remember
I
Brandy.
watched UPN.
A new Lego Star Wars movie called Rebuild the Galaxy will be on Disney Plus on September 13th.
Jay, I mean, why not? Like, people, like, kids are so obsessed with Legos. Like, I mean, you don't have to pay actors. You just throw them up there in the Lego bodies and you make a gajillion dollars. Like, I respect the hustle.
Yeah. Yep. Focus Features released the trailer for Robert Eggers' Nosferatu, the highly anticipated reimagining of the iconic 1922 German expressionist silent film.
Scotty, I have never seen the original Nosferatu, so I'm pretty excited for this one, just to finally give me a taste of this tale that, I mean, I'm familiar with the story, obviously. I feel like it's part of public domain and pop culture at this point. But everything that I saw from the trailer, it looked effectively creepy. It looks like they're really pouring the budget into creating the period piece. And it's also encouraging to me when I see a lot of restraint on display with a trailer. Like, you don't even see Bill Skarsgård's Nosferatu in this trailer, but it's all about creating that vibe and that expectation and that just haunting dread that is associated with his arrival. So it really worked for me on that level.
This was the scariest trailer, by the way, that I was referencing. I was watching this just like...
I thought it was the next
I'm
one.
not... Oh.
Thank you for making
I'm
that
looking
joke
at...
so I
Oh,
don't have to,
gee. I looked
Scotty.
ahead thinking you were being serious. And then, now I feel stupid.
Why are you thinking he watched it?
If you're not a horror person like me, you would watch this trailer and just be mad that you watched it. So just be warned,
Yep.
in advance.
Absolutely. All three of them this week. Just horror. I guess we're getting close to enough to October that we're getting all these horror
that's what's
trailers.
happening. Yeah.
Oh, I don't like it. Looking forward to the next couple weeks of just going to bed with nightmares on Tuesday nights. All right, and now for the scariest trailer. Amazon MGM Studios has unveiled the trailer for the holiday action-adventure film Red One, featuring Dwayne Johnson, Chris Evans, and J.K. Simmons as Santa Claus.
Jay, we talked about AI earlier. If I asked an AI prompt, write me the plot of an action Christmas movie, it would probably literally spit out Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and Chris Evans have to rescue Santa Claus who has been kidnapped. Like, that would be the plot line that would be generated, and that's what this movie is. And hey, I mean, who doesn't love a good Rock? Just being the Rock and saving Santa Claus. I mean, whatever. Let's do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
It knows what it is. Like, Chris Evans, I'm like, are you having a good time right now, or are you hating this? Because I can't tell. Is this the production that he was late to all the time? Is this the one
I don't know.
I don't know
that
if
we
it's-
talked about?
This was
Yeah.
the catalyst for that story coming out.
Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah.
Okay.
I was just wondering.
You mean
That
The
just-
Rock?
That
The
came
Rock
back
being
to
late.
Yes,
I thought
that's
you
what I
meant Chris
meant. That's what I
Evans at
meant.
first.
No,
I was
not
like,
Chris
I don't remember
Evans.
that story.
Chris would
yeah,
never.
I should
Chris would
specified.
never. Captain America can do this all day. He doesn't go home. Just a tiny butt. I really liked seeing Chris Evans in this. He did look like he was having fun, and like, this is not meant to be offensive, but it might be. He looked a little less muscular, and I'm happy for him. Because he's been complaining, like, being Captain America. That he's like, I think he enjoyed being in the Captain America movies, but he's been on the record like keeping that body type all the time was just a slog and terrible for him. And he just looks a little more like a normal guy in this. He still looks amazing. He still looks like Chris Evans, but like he just looks less jacked. And I'm happy that he gets to play in a movie where he's a tracker and not doesn't have to be, you know, the most muscular, jacked up man in the world. So I'm just happy for him playing in another big, like, sort of blockbustery type action movie where he doesn't have to be that guy. So I don't know. At least it looked like that to me, and that is not meant to be a put down. I really am happy for him.
Did you ever see that movie with The Losers with Jeffrey Dean Morgan and Zoe Saldana and Chris Evans? And Idris Elba was in there too. That was actually a stacked cast. But you saying all that reminded me, like, back then he actually played like the nerdy tech kind of guy.
Oh, yeah. I remember seeing him in that. That's been a long time. Okay, yeah. Yeah, he wasn't always Captain America, and, you know, I mean, you think even like his previous Marvel role as like Mr. Flame On. That's his name,
what they
right?
call him.
That's what they call him.
It's on my business card, Mr. Flame On.
Like the whole thing with Mr. Flame On is he's kind of like a Spider-Man body type. You know, he's kind of like a little more like lanky, and so, you know, it's fun for him to get to play a different body type for years than being like, eat chicken breasts and nothing else. I'm sure this is just a happy day for him. Okay, that's the show. We are Multiverse News. Thank you for joining us, and we'll be back next week with lots more news from around the multiverse. Let's go around the panel and tell the people where they can find your stuff online. J. Scotty St. Clair.
Yeah, you can check me out wherever Stranded Panda podcasts are found. I'm a regular contributor to Bingers Assemble and PandaVision, where we are covering a lot of stuff, including The Boys Season 4, and then Animation Deliberation for your animation needs.
Yeah. And Jay Sisson.
Yeah, well, you can find me weekly at Commute the Podcast on Monday, where we cover some interesting things in about the time it takes you to get to work. And we'll be living that Twister life this weekend, covering Twister in advance for Twisters, which is coming out next month. So be looking for that. Try to get your Twister on, this next couple days, so you can talk with us when that comes out early next week at some point.
Sweet.
It's a Twister. Sorry.
Watch Twister, play Twister, get ready for Twisters 2. And
that'll be
Haley
Bingers,
Hobbs.
By the way. That's Bingers.
Oh yeah,
Bingers
Bingers Assemble is where you can find that. Bingers Assemble. And Haley Hobbs.
Yep, we've got lots going on at Source Pages. We just wrapped up our Doctor Who coverage and had feelings about the finale, so check that out if you watched the show. And then Brian and I are going to go hard at Deadpool primers. We're going to do a Wolverine primer, one that focuses on Cassandra Nova, and then, of course, Deadpool kills the Marvel Universe. So we've got lots happening over there.
Oh, those are some fun lead-up comics for that. Yeah, that's a great thing to check out. Check out Source Pages, everybody. And I'm Matthew Carroll. You check me out at strandpanda.com, all those podcasts. I'm on a bunch of them. But yes, we are covering a bunch over on PandaVision, which you just go search PandaVision wherever you get podcasts. Make sure to subscribe. We're actually we just announced a name change for PandaVision, and so that's exciting. But we're not announcing it here. Rebranding it.
We're like HBO up in here.
That's right. That's right. So go subscribe to PandaVision while you can still find it, and and we'll be announcing that wide next week. So we'll be back very soon here on the show. What were you gonna say, J. Scotty?
You're gonna do the rebrand while like in the middle of so many
covering
so many things.
Exactly, because so many people are watching, we can do the rebrand and make sure they all know. So we're going to mention it every week, every episode for a couple of weeks, then change it, and it'll still say formally PandaVision for a few more weeks, and that way we meant to do it last year during Ahsoka, and we just never got around to it.
That's why you make the big bucks.
Yeah. All right, guys. We will be back very soon, right here on Multiverse News. Peace.
You stay classy, Multiverse.
All right. Boom. Hitting stop on the record. Whew, what an hour and a half. Whew.
Oh yeah.
Gonna be up late. How whookin'.
Well, Jay left for 30 minutes, so.
That is true. It wasn't 30 minutes. Okay, calm down.
I just like to give you shit.
I know. It's fine.
What'd you guys think of? I will listen, but like, what did you guys think of Doctor Who? What did you think of Doctor Who? Did you like the season? I just finished it.
Overall, I liked it. I thought the finale left a little wanting with the build up from the episode before.
Yeah.
And there were some things that were not quite super tight that I kind of was like, eh. Yeah. We were all kind of like, eh. The finale.
It was a very Doctor Who finale for me. Like, fun, exciting, big stakes, but like,
but not big enough.
I mean,
not lasting.
Sure, nothing happens. And that's always the way.
There were not stakes that like really ended up mattering.
Didn't they lose the one character for real? Or no, she came back too.
Everybody came back.
Well, spoiler alerts. Sorry.
I think it would have been more effective to Infinity War it, and they didn't. And I thought they would.
Oh, right. Like,
and
yeah.
they didn't. And I was like, oh, just put a little tidy bow on that.
Yeah, I feel like
it's just a little too tidy.
Doctor Who's always a little too tidy. And the thing that bothers me about Doctor Who, and I love it, but it also, like, it's the softest sci-fi I've ever seen. Like, it's always like, hey, it's a sci-fi show, but you know what the answer is? If you love them enough, the sonic screwdriver will work better. Like, it just doesn't, it's like so, it's always some weird, like, emotional change in the population will change the outcome to the thing. It's just, and like, I get what they're going for, and I enjoy watching it, but I always want it to be a little, like, I want to be able to understand the stakes of what's happening, and I never can. You know what I mean? Like,
yes. Like, it bothered me that this isn't a spoiler. They didn't resolve, like, why the ruby snow, like, when it would just snow. They didn't resolve that. It just...
As far as I'm concerned, don't be afraid about spoiling.
Well, we're still live on YouTube.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Just don't want to spoil
there were
it.
just some... I really didn't like the episode with Jonathan Groff. The Bridgerton episode.
Oh, really?
I did not connect with that one.
I liked it.
At all.
I liked it. My niece loved it.
One before the end was really great, and then I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe it was just too much hype.
Yeah, they did. They definitely
I love
ended on a big hype.
I think he's fun. I think he's a breath of fresh air, and I think that's what the showrunner was going for. So totally,
I agree.
Yep.
I liked Ruby too a lot, and
yeah, she was great.
And yeah,
she was probably. I mean, together they were a pretty good pair. So
yeah, I agree. Anyway, we love you all on YouTube. Thank you for hanging out. Do we have any big questions?
Probably all going out to watch The Acolyte.
No.
Ooh.
We nailed most of it.
Cool.
I know. I'm seeing
Thanks
the hype. I have
commenting.
to close Twitter real fast.
I hate that I didn't see Jessica's comment about that is such an underrated movie. I wonder which one she was talking about.
The one you're talking about with nerdy Chris Evans.
Oh, The Losers. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, that one.
Awesome. Well, thanks for hanging out. Everybody in there, Andre, Jessica, and
I think she's gone. Jessica.
All right, TJ, everybody, appreciate y'all, and we'll be back next week. Peace.
Bye.
Bye, YouTube.
Oh, I forgot to plug Hate Watch.